Every story leaves something behind. A whisper, a shadow, a question that was never answered. Here, we dig through the forgotten files, the unsolved mysteries, the chilling true crimes, and the horrors people wish had stayed buried. From haunted legends to real-life nightmares, every tale is pulled straight from the horror archives. So turn down the lights, put on your headphones, and step carefully, because once a story enters the horror archives, it never truly leaves. Garage sales. Most of the time, they're harmless. Old books, dusty furniture, things people don't need anymore. But every now and then, someone sells something they shouldn't have. These are 5 true garage sale horror stories. This first story was sent in by a listener from Oregon. They call it the music box that remembered. It's one of those stories where the wrong detail is small, but the implication behind it is anything but. The music box was playing a song I'd never heard before, but I was humming along to it. That's what made me stop walking. I was at a neighborhood garage sale in Eugene, Oregon, mid-July. The kind of sprawling Saturday morning sale where 6 or 7 houses on the same block all dragged their junk to the curb. The air smelled like hot asphalt and someone's lavender bushes. And there were folding tables lined with old kitchenware and baby clothes and VHS tapes nobody would ever watch again. I'd been browsing a table of old jewelry when I heard the melody drifting from somewhere behind me. It was delicate, the kind of tinkling waltz you'd expect from an antique music box. I turned and saw it sitting on a card table at the edge of a driveway 2 houses down. A small wooden box, dark cherry finish, lid propped open. No one was standing near it. I walked over, and as I got closer, I realized my lips were moving. I was humming the melody, not following it, anticipating it. I knew the next notes before they played. I'd never seen this music box before in my life. I picked it up. The inside was lined with faded red velvet, and the little metal cylinder spun slowly. There was an engraving on the inside of the lid. Initials, EMW. My grandmother's initials. My grandmother, who had been dead for 11 years. I turned it over looking for some explanation. On the bottom was a small sticker, handwritten, the kind you'd see at an estate sale. It read the name of my grandmother's street. Not the city, not the state, just the street name. Birchton Lane. She'd lived in Vermont. I was in Oregon. I asked the woman running that table where she'd gotten the box. She was older, maybe 60s, with reading glasses on a chain. She looked at me for a long moment and said she didn't remember putting that out. She said it wasn't hers. I looked at the table again. Everything else on it was clearly from the same household. Matching dishware, a set of encyclopedias, a crock pot. The music box didn't belong. The woman asked if I wanted it. I said no. I set it back down, and the lid closed on its own. The music stopped. I walked back to my car and sat there for a few minutes trying to calm down. When I drove past the table on my way out, the music box was gone. The woman was still there. The table was still full, but the box was just not on it anymore. I called my mother that night and asked if Grandma had ever owned a music box. She went quiet for a long time. Then she told me yes, a cherry wood one with a waltz. She said it was buried with her. She said my grandmother had insisted on it in her will. I don't go to garage sales anymore, and sometimes, late at night, I catch myself humming a waltz I should know. The next story goes a bit further. This one was submitted by someone in Texas, and it involves a set of Polaroid photographs found inside a toolbox. What makes it disturbing isn't the photos themselves, it's the last one in the stack. There were 14 Polaroids in the bottom of the toolbox, and the last one was taken inside my apartment. I need to go back a bit. I was at a garage sale in Denton, Texas. One of those sales in a cul-de-sac where someone's clearly clearing out a dead relative's house in a hurry. The garage was packed floor to ceiling with boxes, and everything was priced to go. I collect vintage tools, so when I saw an old Craftsman toolbox marked $5, I grabbed it without even opening it. It was heavy, which I took as a good sign. I didn't open it until I got home that evening. The top tray had the usual stuff: wrenches, screwdrivers, a rusty pair of pliers. But when I lifted the tray out, the bottom compartment had a stack of Polaroids held together with a rubber band. The first few were mundane: an older man standing next to a truck, a backyard with a dog, a kitchen table with a birthday cake. But around the fifth photo, things changed. The photos started showing houses. Just houses. Ordinary suburban homes, shot from the street, always at night. No context, no people, just dark houses photographed from the curb. I counted 9 of these, each one a different house, each one shot in that same flat Polaroid style with a timestamp on the white border. The dates were all within the same 2-week span, in March of 2019. Then I got to the 14th photo. It was a living room. My living room. The angle was from the hallway, looking in toward the couch. My couch, my lamp, my stack of books on the side table. The timestamp read March 11, 2019. I'd moved into that apartment in January of 2019. I sat there holding the photo, and my hands were shaking. I had never met the person whose estate this was. I didn't even know their name. The house was 20 minutes from my apartment, in a neighborhood I'd never visited before that morning. I went back the next day. The garage was empty. The sale was over. There was a woman pulling a sold sign out of the yard. I asked her about the man who had lived there. She said he was her uncle. He died alone. She said he kept to himself. She said the neighbors thought he was strange, that he walked the neighborhood at night, but he was harmless. I asked if he'd ever lived near me, near my street. She said no. He'd lived in that house for 30 years and never moved. I showed her the Polaroid of my apartment. She looked at it for a long time and handed it back. She said she didn't know what to tell me. I installed a deadbolt that night and a camera the day after. The camera has never caught anything, but sometimes I look at my living room from the hallway and I see the exact angle of that photograph, and I wonder how many times he stood right there. This third story is different. It was sent in by a couple who were just passing through a small town in North Carolina. They stopped at a church rummage sale on a whim. What they found on one of the tables made them leave the state that same day. The shoes had names written inside them, and one of the names was mine. I was at a church rummage sale in a small town outside Asheville, North Carolina. My wife and I were driving through on vacation and saw the signs on the road. We pulled in mostly out of boredom. It was a humid Saturday, late August, and the sale was set up in the church parking lot under white canopy tents. There were the usual tables of donated clothes, books, old electronics. Near the back, by the chain-link fence, there was a long table covered in children's shoes. Dozens of pairs, all small, all well-worn. Sneakers, sandals, little rain boots. I wasn't shopping for kids' shoes. We don't have children. But something about the table caught my eye. Each pair had a piece of masking tape on the sole, with a name written in black marker. I assumed it was a daycare thing, parents labeling shoes so they don't get mixed up. But the names were strange. Old-fashioned, Dorothea, Clement, Hazel, Amos. I picked up a pair of small red sneakers. The tape on the bottom read a name. My name, my full first name, which is uncommon. I won't say it here, but it's not a name you'd guess. I smiled at first, thought it was a coincidence. Then I turned the shoe over and looked inside. Written on the inner sole in the same handwriting was my middle name, and below it the year I was born. I put the shoes down like they were hot. My wife asked what was wrong and I showed her. She didn't say anything for a moment. Then she picked up another pair, a set of little brown boots. The tape on the bottom had her maiden name. Inside, her middle name and her birth year. We hadn't told anyone in this town our names. We paid for gas in cash 30 miles back. We were strangers passing through. I went to find someone running the sale. There was an older woman at the front table making change. I asked her where the children's shoes came from. She said a donation. I asked from who. She said they'd been left in boxes at the church door overnight. No note, no name. I asked how long ago. She said they showed up the first week the church opened. I asked when that was. She said 1987, the year I was born. I asked if anyone had ever asked about the shoes before. She looked at me with this flat expression and said, "People find their names sometimes." She said it like it was normal. She said most people just put them back and leave. I asked what happens if someone takes them. She didn't answer. She just started organizing the bills in her cash box. We left. I didn't take the shoes, but I looked up that church when we got home. There was nothing unusual about it online. No history, no news stories. The only strange thing was the satellite image. The parking lot where we'd been standing showed up empty in every image. No tents, no tables, no cars, like the sale had never been there at all. Story number 4 is from a couple in Minnesota. They bought a painting at an estate sale for $15. They wanted the frame. They should have left it where it was. The woman in the painting was facing the wall when we bought it. By the time we got home, she was facing us. My husband found it at an estate sale in the suburbs of Minneapolis. It was late October, one of those overcast days where the sky looks like a sheet of tin. The estate belonged to an elderly woman who had passed. Her family was selling everything. The painting was oil on canvas, roughly 2 feet by 3 feet, in an ornate gilded frame. It depicted a woman sitting in a high-backed chair in a dark room. She was turned slightly away, almost in profile, her face angled toward the back wall of the room she was painted in. My husband liked the frame. He thought we could remove the canvas and reuse it. He paid $15. We wrapped it in a blanket and put it in the trunk. The drive home was 40 minutes. When we got back and unwrapped it in the garage, the woman in the painting was facing forward, not slightly, completely. She was looking directly out of the canvas. I told my husband he was wrong about the original angle. He insisted she'd been turned away. We argued about it for a minute and then dropped it. He leaned the painting against the garage wall and we went inside. That night, I went to the garage to get something from the freezer. The overhead light flickered when I turned it on. The woman in the painting was closer. I don't mean the perspective had shifted. I mean she was physically closer to the front of the canvas. The chair behind her was now further back, smaller, like she'd stood up and taken a step toward the viewer. Her expression hadn't changed. She had a slight closed-mouth smile. Her eyes were dark and fixed. I told my husband, and he came out to look. He stared at it for a long time. He said I was being ridiculous. He said he'd get rid of it in the morning. We went to bed. At around 3 in the morning, I woke up to a sound. It was faint, rhythmic, like breathing, but not from my husband. It was coming from below us, from the garage. I lay there and listened. After a few minutes, it stopped. In the morning, I went to the garage before my husband was awake. The painting was face down on the concrete floor. It had been leaning against the wall, 6 feet from where it fell. The blanket we'd wrapped it in was folded neatly beside it, which made no sense because we'd left it crumpled in the trunk. I turned the painting over. The canvas was blank, not white, not painted over, just bare, aged canvas. The woman, the chair, the room, gone, just the texture of old linen in a gilded frame. I called the number from the estate sale flyer and reached the daughter of the deceased. I described the painting. She went quiet and then asked me if the woman was still in it. I said no. She said good. She said her mother had kept it in the attic for 40 years facing the wall and told the family never to turn it around. She said she thought it was just superstition. She said when they brought it down for the sale, it was already facing forward, and she assumed it had always been that way. I asked her what happened to the woman in the painting. She said she didn't know. I asked her what she meant by asking if the woman was still in it. She hung up. The frame is still in our garage. My husband refuses to throw it out because he doesn't believe any of this happened the way I described it. But I notice he never goes in the garage after dark anymore. And some nights, very late, I hear that breathing again. Not from the garage this time, from somewhere inside the house. This last story is the hardest one to share. It was submitted anonymously and verified with local police records. I'll warn you now, this one is not supernatural. It's real, and that's what makes it worse. The cardboard box was duct taped shut, and someone had written on every side of it in red marker, "Do not sell, do not sell, do not sell." I found it at the bottom of a stack at a moving sale in rural Pennsylvania, about an hour outside of Pittsburgh. The family was gone. A neighbor was running the sale on their behalf. It was early November, cold enough that my breath was visible, and the sale was in and around a detached garage behind a 2-story farmhouse. Most of the stuff was junk, water-stained furniture, broken appliances, garbage bags of old clothes. But the box caught my attention because of the writing. Every side, including the bottom, had the same message in frantic block letters. Do not sell. The duct tape was layered thick, like whoever sealed it didn't trust a single strip. I asked the neighbor about it. He was a heavy-set man in a hunting jacket, and when I pointed at the box, his face changed. He said he didn't know that was in there. He said the family told him to sell everything in the garage. Everything. He said they didn't mention any exceptions. He stared at the box for a while, and then told me I could have it for free if I took it off his hands. He didn't want to open it. I should have left it. I know that now. I took it home and set it on my kitchen table. I cut through the tape with a box cutter. Inside there was newspaper padding, yellowed and brittle, dated 2004. Beneath the newspaper were items: a child's tooth in a small plastic bag, a lock of dark hair tied with white thread, a composition notebook, and a cassette tape with no label. The notebook was filled with entries in neat handwriting. It was a log. Each entry had a date, a name, and a description. The descriptions were physical: height, weight, hair color, eye color, age, all children, all between 4 and 9 years old. There were 43 entries spanning from 1998 to 2004. Beside each entry was a single word, either kept or returned. Most said returned, 7 said kept. I put the notebook down and sat there for a long time. Then I played the cassette. I had an old boombox in the closet. I plugged it in and pressed play. It was a man's voice. Calm, measured. He was describing a room, a basement room. He talked about the dimensions, the soundproofing, the temperature. He talked about a schedule, feeding times. He spoke about the children, the way someone would talk about maintaining equipment. Clinical. There was no emotion. Halfway through the tape, his tone shifted. He began addressing someone directly. He said, "If you're listening to this, it means the box was opened." He said he'd left instructions. He said the box was not supposed to be sold. He said if it was sold, then the person holding it had a choice. He said I could destroy the contents, or I could look under the house. Then he gave an address. It was the address of the farmhouse where the sale had been held. The tape ended. I called the police. I told them everything. They sent someone to the house. The family was gone. They'd moved out of state. The officers searched the property. They found the basement room. It matched the description on the tape. The soundproofing, the dimensions, the lock on the inside of the door. They found other things too, but the detective I spoke with wouldn't tell me what. He said I'd be contacted for a statement. He told me not to discuss it publicly. That was 3 months ago. I've given my statement. The investigation is ongoing. The family hasn't been located. But here's what I can't stop thinking about. The notebook had 43 entries. 7 were marked kept. The police found evidence of, I'll say presence, in that basement consistent with 4, not 7. 4, which means either 3 of those entries were wrong, or there are 3 more locations that no one has found yet. And the man on the tape, he didn't sound like someone confessing. He sounded like someone giving instructions, like the box was always supposed to be found, like I was always supposed to open it. I changed my phone number after the second call because someone has been calling me from a blocked number, and the only thing on the line is breathing and the faint sound of a child crying. Some things are put out for sale because people want them gone, and some things find their way to exactly the person they were meant for. Be careful what you bring home.
And that's where tonight's file closes, but the archives are far from empty. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe and join us as we uncover more horrors, mysteries, and true crimes hidden in the horror archives. Until next time, keep the lights low, keep listening, because you never know what story we'll uncover next.